So I live in suburbia. Not just any suburbia, but the kind where the grass is so uniform it looks like it was installed by a rollout lawn company, and the only color variation comes from the beige or gray paint swatches we were allowed to choose from. The governing body of this little slice of Stepford is the Crestview Meadows Homeowners Association, and its undisputed queen is Brenda. We don't call her Brenda. To everyone, she's the HOA Karen. You know the type. Haircut sharper than a samurai sword, oversized sunglasses that scream, "I demand to speak to your manager," and a perpetual expression of smelling something foul, which is probably just the joy of us peasants. My saga began innocently enough. For my birthday, my best friend got me a garden gnome. Not just any gnome. This was Gandalf the gnome, a magnificent, foot-tall fellow with a pointed blue hat and a tiny, determined expression. I placed him proudly by my azalea bush, a little whimsical rebellion against the beige. 48 hours. That's how long it took. Subject: violation notice. Unauthorized lawn ornament. Dear resident, *, it has come to the attention of the Architectural Review Committee that you have placed an unapproved, non-conforming figurine, hereafter referred to as a gnome, on your property. This is in direct violation of Covenant 12, Section 4. All exterior decorations, including but not limited to statuary, fountains, and seasonal displays, must be pre-approved by the ARC and must not be of a whimsical or thematically jarring nature. *, you have 24 hours to remove the violation. A fine of $50 will be assessed daily until compliance is met. Sincerely, Brenda Whitmore, HOA President, Crestview Meadows. Whimsical, thematically jarring? Gandalf was a scholar. I laughed it off, removed him, and sent a polite email explaining it was a gift and asking for the approval forms. I figured, no biggie, I'll just get him approved. Brenda's response was a masterclass in bureaucratic condescension. *, the ARC meets quarterly. Your request will be reviewed in approximately 11 weeks. The fine, however, remains active from the moment of the initial violation. Consider this a lesson in pre-approval. *, a $50 daily fine for a garden gnome? That was over $1,000 by the time they'd even look at it. My calm, reasonable demeanor began to develop its first tiny crack. That's when I decided if they wanted to play by the rules, I would learn every single one. I dug out the 120-page HOA bylaws and covenants. It was drier than toast, but I read it like a thriller. And friends, I started taking notes. I documented everything. Every email, every letter. I saved it in a folder labeled Brenda's Bullshit. I also started noticing things. Brenda's house, for instance. Her mailbox was a custom-built monstrosity that looked like a miniature version of her own house. Covenant 7, Section 1. All mailboxes must be the standard black, colonial-style model provided by the Crestview Meadows developer. Her fence was also about 6 inches taller than the regulation height. Interesting. But the real kicker came one Saturday morning. I was on my morning walk when I saw them. Brenda, her husband, and her 2 teenage kids, marching past the community pool with towels. The pool had a strict sign-in policy and a $10 per person, per day guest fee for non-residents. I knew Brenda's husband and kids didn't live in Crestview Meadows full-time. He had a condo in the city for work. They were, by the HOA's own definition, guests, and they never signed in, never paid. The pool attendant, a high school kid named Kevin, just waved them through. Every single weekend. I decided to be a good citizen. I sent a very polite, anonymous email to the HOA board's general inbox. Hello? I've noticed some residents may not be adhering to the pool's guest policy. Perhaps a reminder email to everyone would be helpful to ensure fairness. The next day, I got a personal email from Brenda. Dear, my name. Thank you for your concern. The board is fully capable of monitoring pool compliance. I would focus on your own property, specifically the wilted appearance of your petunias, which may be in violation of Covenant 18, Section 2 regarding general curb appeal. Consider this a warning. My petunias were fine. They were just thirsty. But the audacity. She knew it was me. The gauntlet had been thrown. The fines started piling up. My trash cans were visible from the street for 15 minutes after pickup. My driveway had a discolored patch. My front door wreath was deemed excessively seasonal. It was a simple grapevine wreath. I was being bled dry over nonsense. But I just paid the fines, kept my head down, and kept researching. I became a bylaws ninja. And then I found it. The golden ticket. The rule that would become my Excalibur. It was buried in the amenities used section. Bylaw 22, Section 8. The use of HOA amenities, including but not limited to the pool, clubhouse, and tennis courts, is strictly reserved for residents in good standing. Any non-resident, defined as any person not listed on the official property deed, must be signed in as a guest and the requisite fees paid. Failure to comply will result in the immediate revocation of amenity access for the resident host for a period of no less than 90 days, and a fine of $500 per incident. Per incident. Brenda's family had been swimming for free all summer. That was dozens of incidents. We were talking thousands of dollars in fines. I had my phone. I started a new folder, Pool Gate. For 2 weekends, I coincidentally went for a walk during peak pool hours. I took videos from a discreet distance. Clear, date-stamped footage of Brenda's family waltzing past the sign-in sheet, laughing and splashing around, while Kevin the pool attendant looked at his phone. I had my evidence. I needed to force a public confrontation. I needed the entire board and ideally the whole neighborhood to see this hypocrisy in real time. I requested the floor at the next HOA meeting, which was in 1 week. But how to make it undeniable? How to make it so obvious that even the most Brenda-brained board member couldn't ignore it? That's when I saw the box of fruit punch-flavored drink mix in my pantry. The neon red, powdery kind. And I had a beautifully, wonderfully petty idea. The day of the meeting, the weather was perfect. Hot, pool weather. And just as I predicted, at 3 p.m., Brenda and her non-resident family headed to the pool. I was ready. I walked over holding a large, opaque water bottle eyed premixed with the red powder. Brenda. Hey, I said, all smiles. She looked at me like I just tracked mud on her white carpet. My name. What can I do for you? Oh, I was just so parched on my walk. Thought I'd get some water from the fountain, I said, gesturing to the one just inside the pool gate. I walked in right past Kevin. As I bent down to the water fountain, I fumbled my water bottle. The lid, which I'd conveniently not screwed on tightly, popped off. A cloud of neon red powder erupted, coating my hands, the concrete around the fountain, and a little bit of my shirt. Oh shoot, my pre-workout, I exclaimed, making a big show of trying to brush it off my hands. So sticky. Ugh, it gets everywhere. Brenda wrinkled her nose in disgust. Please be careful. This is a communal area. Of course, so sorry, I said, and hurried out, leaving a very distinct, bright red, powdery residue right at the entrance. I found a bench just outside the pool fence, in the shade, and pretended to be on my phone. I was a spectator at the Coliseum, and the lions were about to be released. Chaos didn't just ensue. It unfolded like a beautiful, tragic ballet of pettiness. Brenda's family, after an hour of swimming, got out. Her husband was the first to step in the powder. Neon red footprints. Then one of the kids. Soon, there were red footprints leading to their towels, all over the pool deck, and most importantly, all over the light beige interior of Brenda's pristine luxury SUV. The screaming started. I could hear her from my bench. What is this? Who did this? Kevin. It was glorious. That evening, at the HOA meeting, Brenda was flustered. She started the meeting by complaining about vandalism at the pool. I just sat there, calm, with a manila folder on my lap. When it was my turn to speak, I stood up. Thank you, Brenda. Before we discuss the so-called vandalism, I have a few questions about the bylaws. I held up my printed copy. Specifically, Bylaw 22, Section 8, regarding amenity use for non-residents. Her face went pale. I've been documenting several incidents of non-residents using the pool without signing in or paying guest fees. I looked directly at her. In fact, I have video evidence from today and the past 2 weekends of your husband and children, who are not on the deed to your home, using the pool. That's a $500 fine per incident and a 90-day suspension of your pool access. The room was dead silent. You could hear a pin drop. She spluttered. That's a lie. They were signing in. Were they? I asked sweetly. Because the sign-in sheet from today is right here. I took a picture of it on my way in. Your family's names aren't on it. And Kevin, the attendant, is happy to provide a statement that you've never once paid the guest fee. I then pulled out the other documents. And while we're on the topic of rules, your mailbox is in clear violation of Covenant 7. Your fence violates the height restriction in Section 14. And you've never submitted ARC forms for that new pergola in your backyard, which I believe qualifies as a permanent structural addition. I slid the entire packet, photos, printed bylaws, highlighted sections, across the table to the other board members. It seems the issue isn't a little red powder, which, by the way, is non-toxic and washes off with water. The issue is a board president who believes the rules are for everyone but herself. The fallout was immediate and beautiful. The other board members, who had been cowed by Brenda for years, saw their chance. The neighborhood, tired of her tyranny, erupted in support. People started airing their own grievances about her selective enforcement. Brenda was immediately suspended as president pending a full review. A week later, she was officially voted out. The vandalism charge was dropped when I explained it was a simple accident with a drink mix, and the community, having seen her true colors, didn't care. An audit was launched. All the fines she had levied against me, and several others, were rescinded. The new, temporary board simplified the rules. Garden gnomes were officially approved as non-jarring. The guest policy was enforced fairly, with a new electronic sign-in system. As for Brenda, her family was banned from the pool for the rest of the season. She was also fined a symbolic $1 for every bylaw she'd broken, which came out to a pretty penny. They put their house on the market 2 months later. Gandalf the gnome now sits proudly by my azaleas, a tiny, smiling sentinel of justice. Sometimes you don't need to fight fire with fire. You just need to know the rulebook better than the tyrant, and have a little packet of red powder ready to expose the chaos they've been creating all along. And it was deeply, profoundly satisfying.